What makes A24 Trailers so good? Besides that though, in this video I'm going to break down how A24 makes movie trailers people love. And at the end, I'll share tips you can apply to your own story trailers to make them more like A24's. Hi, my name is Derek Liu, and this is the art of making trailers. Press the CC button if you'd like to see the names of the films in this video, and if available, who made the trailer. A24 is a film production and distribution company known for unique and unconventional genre films, heartfelt indies, and really good trailers. If you look in the comments of any trailer on the A24 YouTube channel, you'll see something rare. Positive comments about movie trailers.
Oh, it's perfect.
Do you love it?
A lot of people on the internet hate movie trailers with a fiery passion and refuse to watch them because of excessive spoilers. In sharp contrast, fans of A24 happily eat up their trailers and leave comments like this one for Under the Silver Lake. I love how this trailer shows you almost everything, but tells you almost nothing. How does A24 pique the audience's interest, show them a lot of the movie without making it feel spoilery, and leave them eager to watch more trailers in the future? Well, yes, but there's more to it than that.
I disagree.
The really standout things about A24 trailers are the parts of the film on which they focus, and the trailer editing style. In researching this video, I came to the conclusion all movie trailers fall into roughly 4 categories, which I based on what the audience knows about the film after they finish watching the trailer. Timeline, setup, characters, mood and tone. Before I break these down, credit where credit's due, it's a common misconception movie trailers are made entirely by the studios, when in actuality there are dozens if not hundreds of trailer houses doing the work. Some of the movie trailer houses which work most with A24 include Mark Woolen and Associates, AV Squad, Geronimo Productions, and Grandson Creative. If you want to know who makes movie trailers, I recommend following @TrailerBeat on Twitter, or following lots of trailer editors and houses on LinkedIn. The description of this video also has links to playlists of A24 trailers made by each of these respective houses. These will not be kept up to date after the release of this video, but should still be interesting.
Shit, I'm sorry.
Oh, you little asshole!
Timeline. This is the category many mainstream movie trailers fall into. When you finish watching one of these trailers, you know a fairly detailed timeline of the film's events. This is the most spoilery end of the spectrum, because there's not much more you can know about a film other than the exact events and the order in which they occur. For example, the first trailer for The Invisible Man gives you this timeline of events. Elizabeth Moss runs away from her abusive husband. He kills himself by cutting his wrists. She meets with a lawyer who says she's entitled to $5 million as long as she's not found to be mentally incompetent. She tries to move on with her life, but she can't help but think about how her husband said he'd always find her, and when he did, she wouldn't be able to see him. She's haunted by an invisible presence who visits her while she showers, sets things in her kitchen on fire, and while some friends are visiting, she says the invisible person is sitting in her chair. She then discovers proof of what she's experiencing. Her friend says she needs help. She goes to her ex-husband's house and figures out he's not dead, he's invisible. She has more encounters where he terrorizes her. She gets arrested, locked up, and interviewed. Her husband attacks more people. And lastly, she confronts and attacks him. This trailer provides a very full timeline of events, and it really feels like you've seen bits of the whole movie, whether that's true or not. There are a lot of movie trailers like this where you finish watching it and think to yourself, did I just see the whole movie? In fairness, I think movie trailers have gotten better at not showing us quite so much of the story. Around the late 90s and early 2000s, there were a bunch of trailers which left little to the imagination, like Castaway, Arlington Road, Frequency, and What Lies Beneath.
Oh my God, something's wrong.
Most A24 trailers do not fall into this timeline category. Only 5 out of 50 A24 trailers even got close to building as robust a timeline as others. Next is setup. The vast majority of movie trailers I looked at from both A24 and other studios fall into this category, though there are stylistic editing differences with A24 films, which I'll get to later. When you finish watching one of these trailers, you know some mix of the premise of the film and the circumstances of the characters, but not much about the plot.
Why is that better?
There isn't much, this happened, which caused this to happen.
Hello?
Therefore, this is going to happen.
I would rather take my chance out there in the ocean than to stay here and die.
These trailers feel less spoilery because they tend to avoid specific plot points. For example, based off of Everything Everywhere All at Once's trailer, we know there is a multiverse and that Michelle Yeoh's character must save it by tapping into the abilities of her counterpart. Also, she just wants to be with her family.
I just want to share with you.
There's no mention of who the antagonist is, why they want to destroy the multiverse, what Evelyn needs to do to defeat them, how they try to achieve that, or any of the specific difficulties they have. Cut to the song Time by David Bowie, this film looks and feels like a rousing, fun, and offbeat adventure.
Are you with us?
I am paying attention.
Setup trailers avoid falling into the timeline category by focusing on character, mood, visuals, and scenes which don't advance the plot, but feel like glimpses into moments that fit within the premise. For example, if the initial setup of a trailer was, this is a film about a cat rescuer in New York City. Scenes of the main character feeding cats, trapping cats, playing with them, and giving them medicine wouldn't help you create a timeline. But if the scenes were them struggling for funding, then successfully finding a donor, building a bigger facility, and getting more staff, that would create a definitive timeline and feel more spoilery. There are many more A24 trailers which, once they establish the setup of the story, they transition to a looser montage editing style to tease at what happens later in the film.
Is it scary?
For example, Midsummer's trailer shows us a couple in a rocky relationship going to a Swedish festival, which only happens once every 90 years. Weird and horrifying things happen which make them want to leave, but they may be stuck there.
We just need to acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate, I want to go.
In the trailer for Green Room, an indie band plays at a bar and accidentally discovers a dead body. The killers hold them hostage, and they try to escape.
Careful now.
In First Cow's trailer, two men meet, and together they try to make a successful living by making food which uses the milk of the first cow in their region.
I taste London in this cake.
The setup category is a good sweet spot of just enough story to know what is happening, but not so much that we can build a timeline which forms a picture so complete it doesn't feel worth watching.
Yeah, for sure.
Most movie trailers fall into this category, including pretty much all Marvel films. For example, in the final trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, all we know is his messing with the multiverse is causing dangerous things to happen, for which he's due to be punished. Also, Scarlet Witch is in the story too.
Things just got out of hand.
But there are no specific events and plot points. Though there are some surprises which, based off of how closely you're paying attention, are either a teaser or full-on spoiler.
That doesn't seem fair.
24 out of 50 A24 trailers fell into this setup category, including Under the Silver Lake, Hereditary, It Comes at Night, The Green Knight, X, Marcel the Shell, and Uncut Gems.
You having a good time?
Yes.
The next category is all about characters. When you finish watching one of these trailers, you have a good feel for who the characters are, their circumstances, and sometimes their relationships with people around them. Trailers in this category are even less spoilery because they frequently exclude any story setup at all.
Thank you very much.
You're not welcome!
For example, the trailer for Lady Bird tells us Lady Bird is a teenage girl who hates her California hometown and aspires to be in an elite, cultured place on the East Coast, even if she admits she doesn't possess the acumen to get into those colleges.
You definitely couldn't get in.
Her mother is loving, but she also drives her crazy. She is fiercely independent, rebellious, and seeks attention. And she's worried about her future and her identity. That's it. No plot details. No specific events which occur other than when she has sex with Timothée Chalamet.
You're gonna have so much unspecial sex in your life.
We see shots from different scenes, but we can't form a timeline or even a basic framework for what the story events are, but we know it's some sort of teenage character piece. Out of 50 A24 trailers, 11 were similarly character-focused, including The Florida Project, The Disaster Artist, 8th Grade, Come On, End of the Tour, First Reform, and Moonlight. The last category is where I think many A24 movie trailers shine the most, and that is mood and tone. When you finish watching one of these trailers, you have only the barest sense of what happens in the story, but you leave knowing how the story will make you feel. Granted, the vast majority of these trailers make you feel unease, paranoia, fear, and tension, but that is often all you know, making these the least spoilery trailers. That is, unless you consider any and all standout visuals to be spoilers. For example, I have no earthly clue what The Lighthouse is about, other than two men working in a lighthouse who might be going insane? The trailer for The Witch shows a Puritan family living in isolation, and weird, unsettling things start happening. Men is the story of a woman whose husband has died. She is now in a small village where everyone looks like the same man. This trailer is tremendously unsettling and uncomfortable. On the other end of the spectrum, there's the trailer for Waves, which starts,
"Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not rude. It doesn't boast. Love also forgets wrong."
Impeccably edited to the song Godspeed by Frank Ocean, this trailer makes you feel like you're being wrapped in a blanket of love with its music and visuals. I don't know what it's about other than love. Out of 50 A24 trailers, about 10 fell into this mood and tone category, including The Witch, The Tragedy of Macbeth, The Green Knight, Saint Maud, and Under the Skin. Of course, 4 categories is likely wholly insufficient and reductive. Most trailers will feature a varying mix of all of these things, but the focus the trailer producers choose will depend on what makes each story unique.
Oh, it's really good.
Before I go into the editing style, I'd be remiss to not mention the fact that A24 films, and by extension their trailers, are often notable because of the carefully curated catalog of films A24 produces and distributes. By and large, they're very hooky genre films. These films trade heavily on their unusual premises and unique visuals. Lamb is about sheep farmers whose sheep gives birth to a lamb which is half human. In Fabric is a story about a woman who purchases a killer dress. Not killer as in looking really good, though it does look nice. Literally a dress that kills people. Not a horror film, but Swiss Army Man is about a suicidal man on a deserted island who befriends a dead body that washes ashore.
Okay, buddy.
All of these have really strong and hooky one-line pitches, which makes them stand out. Because the premises of these films are so unique, the trailers are often free to avoid showing additional plot details after the initial setup. A lot of A24 trailers make their films stand out in less than a minute, whereas a lot of big-budget movie trailers feel entirely cliché and conventional during their entire running time.
Oh, crap!
For example, this trailer for The Misfits looks like a very typical heist film. Aside from the actors and the setting, there's nothing in this trailer which feels novel, from the premise to the character archetypes.
Keep pushing, keep...
This is why I think they have to show so much more of it. They're trying to sell a slightly different flavor of chocolate ice cream to someone who's eaten dozens of varieties. This is why the trailer plays out so many set pieces and uses stylish, over-the-top editing. When something isn't unique, the answer is oftentimes to up the salesmanship and presentation. I think this is a huge reason a lot of movie trailers show so many spoilers, because the films aren't as hooky, and therefore need to show more to differentiate them at all. For example, the film adaptation of Uncharted is a globe-trotting adventure film like Indiana Jones. The trailer has to show the big set pieces to distinguish it, because it wouldn't look at all different if it only showed genre staples like characters looking at maps and walking through caves with a burning torch. It could also be that the people behind the marketing of these mainstream films feel like they need to show more to differentiate it. Especially when there's a lot of money at stake, I can imagine them getting understandably insecure about what they're selling. If The Misfits is a slightly different chocolate ice cream, A24 films are like ice cream made with liquid nitrogen, rolled, stretchy, deep fried, or a unique flavor like squid ink. And with their unique premises, a lot of A24's films come with distinctive visuals which, yes, include flaming heads. When you have such strong visuals to work with, you can let them play out so the audience can drink them in. One flaming head can create so much more interest than 5 shots of a treasure hunter doing something we've seen many times before. This means films with visuals like those in The Green Knight can turn into trailers which fill their runtime with fewer shots on screen for more time.
1 year hence.
So, how do you edit a trailer in the style of A24? This of course will depend on the story you're working with. Again, if you're working with generic chocolate ice cream, you may not have the material to make something unique and interesting. That said, the first thing is to avoid plot points which help the viewer build a timeline of events. Very few A24 trailers are structured in a way in which we feel we have a solid timeline of events.
You never know what's next, and that's what makes things exciting and scary and fun.
There are exceptions like the trailer for The Spectacular Now, which shows a party guy who meets a girl, they have sex, start seeing each other regularly, fall in love, question whether they're good for each other, have arguments, and then decide to go for it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Next, find the dialogue or visuals which establish the basic story setup, which illustrates either who the characters are or what their relationships are like.
At some point, you gotta decide for yourself who you're gonna be.
For example, 8th grade, The Florida Project, Sea of Trees, or the circumstances the characters are in. For example, Uncut Gems, Bodies, 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 Room. Finally, the key notable editing style difference of a lot of A24 movie trailers is how they use dialogue and scenes. The more conventional style of movie trailer editing is very much about using expositional dialogue to tell.
This is the One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron.
Explain.
Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands of a second darkness.
And illustrate ideas about the world.
Called it El Dorado.
The plot.
In less than 12 hours, the machines will breach the dock walls.
Or the characters.
Just how dangerous is he?
Compared to what? The bubonic plague?
These lines are frequently divorced from their respective scenes and used as voiceover talking about events from the past.
It was made in the fires of Mount Doom.
Present.
What the hell is he doing?
I find it best not to look.
Or future.
When the clock stops, Ethan Hunt will lose everyone he ever cared about.
B-roll is then cut over the dialogue to illustrate what is being talked about.
Everything changed when a government lab discovered a virus that caused genetic mutation. They used it to create faster and stronger soldiers.
Or, after the line is finished, the trailer cuts to what the character was just talking about.
They made her a weapon.
Killing is what I do. It's what I'm good at.
Sort of like Family Guy.
What about the time I was on that airplane?
Or 30 Rock.
I was part of a special task force of very young-looking cops who infiltrated high schools. How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
But what a lot of A24 trailers do is create montages of dialogue, almost all of which stay within their original context, like in this trailer for The Florida Project. The first scene shows Willem Dafoe watching over some kids and then kicking them out when they drip ice cream on the floor.
Okay, I warned you. One drip and you're out.
Oh, come on!
The next scene shows the kids playing around the hotel's rooms.
These are the rooms we're not supposed to go in. But let's go anyway.
The kids then ask someone for change to buy ice cream.
Please, the doctor said we have asthma and we gotta eat ice cream.
The next scene is a more typical line of dialogue used as voiceover, while the things Willem Dafoe talks about are illustrated with B-roll.
It's only second week of the summer and there's already been a dead fish in the pool.
We're trying to get it back alive.
Then Willem Dafoe asks the kid's mother about her new job and starts to lecture her, which makes her upset.
If you're working, who's looking after mommy?
You're not my father.
I don't want to be your father.
You can't treat me like this.
The mother then has a talk with a friend. Then the kids see an adult about to cry.
I can always tell when adults are about to cry.
Together, these scenes form a picture, but it's more of a sketch than a blueprint. These dialogue scenes are frequently sequenced with little to no transition, and dialogue exchanges often play out.
Why is my mom yelling?
Just talking, they gotta figure something out.
Whereas in a lot of mainstream trailers, single lines, phrases, or even individual words are used like puzzle pieces to form one idea.
Got 21 hours
Before they start global war.
They're not our enemy.
I think the more dialogue cuts, the more spoilery a trailer is likely to feel, because more cuts means the footage has gone through more manipulation.
Clarify their intentions.
I go back in.
What is she doing? You are committing an act of treason.
You trust me.
One thing that helps things move along in A24 trailers is the fact they frequently cut in accolades and quotes. Title cards give the editor an out point to each idea.
Every cell phone has a microphone, camera, and a means to transmit data. So I turned on every microphone and camera across the entire planet.
Title cards are like a palate cleanser between small morsels of story.
My competitors thought that search engines were a map of what people were thinking, but actually they were a map of how people were thinking.
They calibrate the audience's expectations to think, I'm going to see a grab bag of moments, which makes frequent jumps in time. This doesn't mean the story points between title cards can be completely random. They should still create a sketch or feeling of the story, if not an outright blueprint. Trailers telling a story without use of title cards frequently have to resort to using several music stop-downs and segues to keep things moving. More segues makes trailers feel more spoilery, because a segue implies the trailer is resolving an entire sequence of the film and then moving on to the next. Like in the trailer for Unbroken, with its almost comical number of segues.
Light. I'm on the street. You fight harder with a lifetime of glory. We're gonna die out here.
I got good news and bad news.
Who is the Olympic athlete? I am now interned in a Tokyo prisoner of war camp.
Also, by not using a lot of music stop-downs and segues, many A24 trailers end up using fewer music cues. This allows the trailer to hold on to the audience's attention, rather than giving them space for their attention to lapse. Segues feel like spoilers. The trailer for Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is similar to the Florida Project in its very light use of dialogue as voiceover. It starts with a scene of 20-somethings doing a chant about being ready for anything and having good friends who will stick together until the end. After which, someone proposes playing Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. In a very typical trailer edit, a girl then says,
I get so stressed out every time we play this. Someone always ends up crying.
Cut to a girl crying. Then there are a couple lines explaining the rules of the game.
You draw the piece of paper that has the X on it.
You are the murderer.
Then a scene of a girl crunching on Xanax who offers to share to a friend.
Xanax, you want one? Yeah.
What follows are scenes where people are dying, but the primary focus is on the friction between the characters.
You're always gaslighting me.
You fucking trigger me.
You are so toxic.
Relax, relax. You're silencing me.
The story is advancing, but because all the dialogue is in the moment, we can't form a timeline of events.
I can't believe you're making this about you.
When dialogue is used as voiceover, it creates chronological context. if nothing else, between what is being said and what is being shown. If we go back to The Invisible Man, the lawyer talking about Elizabeth Moss escaping cuts to shots of her leaving the house, which creates a sequence of two events in a timeline.
Are you okay?
When she escaped and when she met with the lawyer. Dialogue about her requirement to be deemed mentally competent, followed later by a shot of her being committed, also plots those two events onto the timeline. The A24 style isn't just using dialogue within the context of the scene, but using dialogue which has little to no indicators of when it happens within the story.
Our friend is dead.
Yes, dialogue about people being killed in bodies, bodies, bodies can obviously not be from the beginning of the film, but they could be anywhere from the middle to the end. This uncertainty is key to making the trailer not feel like it's full of spoilers. By the way, the trailer for The Florida Project and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies are both from trailer house Mark Woolen and Associates, so this could very well just be an in-house style of dialogue editing. But I've also seen this done in A24 trailers from other houses, so it could be a stylistic choice from A24's marketing team.
Are you serious right now?
Here's a summary of my tips for making trailers like A24's. Use minimal dialogue to establish the story setup. Use dialogue within its original scene to show us a situation or character trait.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, kiddo.
Express ideas with dialogue which is from one scene, rather than fabricating the same idea using multiple bites.
Don't you think it should cost less to be alive?
Absolutely.
Keep the timeline of events broad and murky.
Remember our mission. Consider the fate of every single world of our infinite multiverse.
Focus on character, mood and tone, and theme, not plot. What? Minimize the use of segues, which break the story into resolved sequences.
I don't like this. Dad, I don't like this.
Try to use a maximum of 1 or 2 strong music cues which don't have big stop-down moments.
Every rejection, every disappointment has led you here.
Title cards give you editorial license to make big leaps back and forth through the story. Next, try making your trailer centered around either the setup, like with Minari, Green Room, Midsummer, or Swiss Army Man. The characters, like with 8th Grade, Lady Bird, Moonlight, or The Florida Project.
I love you too!
The mood and tone, like with The Witch, Green Knight, The Lighthouse, or The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Something wicked this way comes.
This is how A24 trailers leave people feeling like they saw almost everything but learned nothing. Or in other words, the trailer shows a lot of pieces but doesn't help form a complete picture. The trailer for Uncut Gems is another example of an A24 trailer with good setup but very light on plot details. All we know is Adam Sandler's character makes a lot of risky bets, which causes trouble with his family and people to whom he owes money. There's no dialogue saying anything about who he placed the bets with, what specific problems he runs into, who goes after him, and how he's going to sort it all out. We just know he's in trouble, and it looks like a very fraught situation. But it totally works because the context of him being a risky gambler helps us interpret the moments in the trailer. There's a lot of tension and anxiety as we watch him get in more and more trouble. After watching this trailer, I know the basic setup and how the movie will make me feel. This isn't to say A24 has a monopoly on trailers which do a great job of only teasing the events of the film.
I disagree.
The trailer for Knives Out establishes the premise and character dynamics, but pretty much no details about any of the events in the film, or the twists and turns of the murder investigation.
Up your ass.
Oh, very nice.
Matter of fact, eat shit.
Thor Love and Thunder's trailer pretty much just says Thor put his life back together, his ex-girlfriend shows up as the new Thor, and there's a new villain.
And flick.
Even trailers as big as the 9th Fast and the Furious film, despite their 3+ minute length, give away almost no plot details, instead showing a bunch of set pieces with no story context other than Dom has a long-lost brother who they're now fighting against.
Dom's brother.
Been a long time, Dom.
These blockbuster movie trailers feel spoilery to people in a completely different way, not because they flesh out the timeline of events, but because they show the giant set pieces and money shots people want to be surprised by when they're watching the film at home or in theaters.
Man, we messing with magnets now? If you woke to wake up. Whoa.
But really, when the set pieces are the hook of the film, I don't blame trailer makers for using them. One last but significant difference between A24 and these other studios is A24 has built a solid brand based off releasing unconventional films and trailers which don't feel chock full of spoilers. They're playing to a warm audience who love their films and marketing, whereas the other studios face a hostile audience who need to be convinced they will market to them without copious amounts of spoilers. Editing a good movie trailer is very hard, especially when the source material doesn't have a lot of good hooks, like the premise, characters, visuals, or mood and tone. The stronger the hooks, the less you have to explain and contextualize, and simpler or more abstract you can make the trailer. It's frankly much easier to find all the dialogue which explains every inch of the story and the character's wants, hopes, and needs, match it with B-roll and accents, and create a timeline of events.
How I do.
It's been hard, hasn't it?
I feel making story trailers in the style of A24 is for more advanced trailer editors, but it's a fun target to aim for to improve your skills at the art of making trailers.
I'm trying to give you the tools to succeed in this world. It's not easy out there. Everything I do is for y'all. Everything.
Sometimes, but you'll have this place to call home.